Thank you for visiting the channel. So today we're going to talk about work-life balance and what the Bible has to say about that. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today. Still trying to figure out the pace. Sometimes I feel like the pace is too fast, trying to post biblical scripture as well as reading it. So today I'm just going to post some scripture, how it relates to it throughout, not necessarily in any type of order, on how the Bible feels about work-life balance, taking our vacations, things like that. Now, some of us, depending on what field we're in, some of us don't have the typical 9 to 5 job where we're off weekends and holidays and things like that. Some of us, depending on if you're in healthcare, any type of job where EMS, you name it. Some of us have jobs where it's a 24-hour rotation. So in those 24-hour rotation type jobs, as you know, with any job, there could be a lot of burnout involved. There could be situations where some people have 8 days on, 7 off, things like that. And of course, with those type of situations, you're probably working 12-hour rotations, maybe even more. I work in healthcare, so with my particular job, I do every other weekend, every other holiday. So when my son was younger, he's a teenager now. I worked a typical 9 to 5 job, just like everybody else, off holidays and weekends. We were on mandatory overtime for years. I worked in a environment where we did billing or denials follow up. So we had so much work that I was working. I think for the first 2 or 3 years of my son's life, I was just working mandatory overtime, where I had to get so many extra hours in each week, sometimes even Saturdays. So it was to the point where I felt that my husband and I were just on survival mode. There were days, and when your children are that young, they usually go to sleep, especially babies, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I was leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning, coming home at 6. I basically have an hour with him, and then he'd be off to bed. So between me and my husband, even though it had us in alignment where we were working similar hours, personally, it just wasn't conducive. It just wasn't sustainable. So when my son turned about 5, I started working for a local hospital. I took a huge pay cut, but I started working second shift. And that put me in a position where, marriage-wise, it might not have aligned us the way I would have liked to have been, since, when you work second shift away from home, you're missing a lot of dinners and things like that. However, as young as my son was at the time, it helped that way. So with my husband working first and me working second, there was not a huge gap of time. He was always with one of us, which worked for that moment. You'll have situations that will work for your family that may not work for other people. It worked for us at that time. I'm still working second. Then when the pandemic hit, I found my son's been homeschooled since first grade, so I found a co-op that I take him to with other homeschoolers. They do volunteer activities. They'll go downtown and they do scavenger hunts and things of that nature. But it's just really helpful. Socially, it's great for him. So that's where I'm at right now. So back to you. If you're in a situation where you're a workaholic or you're just working on empty, some of us, most of us now, let's face it, with expensive as it is to get by and things like that, a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. But if you can afford to take a vacation, even if it's a staycation, most jobs, unless it's gig work or contract work or self-employed, most people gain what's called BTO or PTO, benefit time off, paid time off. That's time that you have earned for working your 40 hours every week and things of that nature. Take your time off. Do your body, rest. Do your due diligence and get rest. 365 days a year, we're doing the same thing. We're working. We come home, dinner, maybe a little bit of R&R, then we go to sleep, and guess what? We repeat the next day. So that can be depressing if you don't have any type of respite, so to speak. And I'm not talking about just an hour watching TV every night, things like that. That's not respite. That's a routine that you do every night to wind down. I'm talking about truly getting away. And truly getting away doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars or set aside money each month for said vacation. Sometimes it's just doing things around the house. A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I decided we still took the week off. We did things around the house, trying to work on the yard, things you would not normally either A, have the time to do, or their energy to do because you're going through the hustle and bustle of work. So enjoy the fruits of your labor. Don't just work, you know, and have nothing to show for it. And if you're like a lot of Americans, a lot of times they're like, okay, great, I took my week or two off. Now what? I get to do it all over again for another year. That in itself can also be a depressing thought. So do little things throughout, so that that vacation that you take, or if you go visit family, that is icing on the cake, that it's not your everything, that like everything is not looped up into that one weekly vacation, or 2 weeks, or however much time you get off. Do little things extra around the house. And I'm not talking about just the routine things we normally do, like making dinner, watching TV and things like that, and bonding together. Do extra things. Take date nights with your spouse. Go out with friends. Go out with friends from work. Go out with, visit family that you don't normally see. Do little things throughout the year that's not going to break the bank. So when those times of true respite come around, whether you're doing something lavish and luxurious, like taking a cruise, whether you're taking a trip, a plane trip, you live in the East Coast, you're taking a trip on the West Coast, or vice versa, or really living it up, and say you're in the USA and you decide, I'm going to take a European cruise, I'm going to go tour Italy, whatever that, those bucket list things, and that's more so in addition to our respite, so to speak. So say you're the type that goes to the beach every year, that's your family vacation. Maybe every 5 to every 10 years you want to do something truly bucket list wise. Say you've always wanted to go to Africa, you've always wanted to go to New Zealand, you've always wanted to go to Europe. Those are the things you truly plan for years in advance. It's not something you do on a whim, or something you just say 6 months from your week-long vacation, I think I'm just going to go to Italy. A lot of this involves a lot of planning and things like that, but enjoy the fruits of your labor. Don't just work and work and work till the day you die, because guess what? If you die today, that job is going to have a replacement for you tomorrow. That's just the reality of it. Maybe not that quick, but they will start interviewing for your job. It's just corporate America. That's just what they have to do to sustain the workflow. It's nothing personal. So don't put yourself in a position where you're neglecting your family, where you're, sun up to sun down. You're giving so much time to that job, and do some worship as well. If you're a Christian, do some worship in between. Spend some time with God. Don't spend 10 to 12 hours on these jobs. Not only are you neglecting God, and I'm not saying you can't still worship God outside of that 10 to 12 hours. You may be in a position, depending on what field you're in, you may have to work 12 hours. I get that. But I mean, set aside some time for God as well. And remember, it's not about the quantity of time that you're spending with God or your family, it's the quality of it. So even if you have to do it during a 10-minute break, read a couple of scriptures during break to keep you refreshed. Do little things throughout your daily routine that motivates you to look forward to the times that you have that true respite. Like I said, because if you just make it about the respite, then sometimes you're so exhausted from doing what you do the other 300 days out of the year that you're like, you can't even enjoy it that much, because that's all that everything is looped up into that 1 or 2 weeks. So do little things throughout to help. Go walking sometimes, join a gym, do little things. So again, that vacation, that once a year vacation that you take, that true respite, that bucket list item of this is the year for that, that is truly enjoyable. That is the icing on the cake, not the whole kit and caboodle where you're going to think in your mind, great, now what? You want to make that to where it enhances everything you do on the daily. Thank you for visiting the channel.